So, third thing, let's talk about practicing some relaxation techniques, ones that can work for you. Okay, so defining relaxation, a state of being free from tension and anxiety. Who doesn't want that, right? But I would say it's more than just the state of, being free from tension and anxiety. I would say it's also the act of creating that state and doing that willfully, intentionally, right? Because the whole concept of relaxation is recharging your personal power, and personal power is your motor, it's your center, it's your engine of, emotional credits, of physical energy, of all kinds of energy, of your brilliance, concentration, intelligence, talent, creativity, what have you. We all call this, we call all of this personal power, right? So if you think about it like this, there's this famous saying by Pablo Picasso about inspiration, which is, the muse or inspiration will find you, but it has to find you working, right? The idea that if we just expect this to happen on its own, we're not going to have that many occasions of it, especially during times of crisis or when we're very busy. But if you work on it like any other muscle, it'll start to give fruit more. You'll find it easier to relax in certain cases. You'll have more tools in doing it, right? So just remember, it's key. Relaxation is not an extra. It's not a nice to have. As we keep saying, this is a critical, valuable tool to maximizing your effectiveness, your creativity, and your joy. Some other myths, other than just believing that it can only happen spontaneously and can't be created, are that it's only valid when everything else is done. Well, if you're waiting for everything else to be done before you actually have a chance to relax, you'll never get there. Or you'll rarely get there, and by the time you get there, it may be too late. The other myth is if you're nervous, you can't help yourself relax. It's not necessarily true. There are many things that can help us even in some of our most panicked moments. Now, are you expecting to go from, crisis, panic, stress to blissful zen in 6.5 seconds? No, but you can definitely de-escalate very quickly if you put some of these things into practice. Right. The reality comes down to is that you don't find time for relaxation. You create the time. If you think about all these people who run huge companies and have all kinds of different things under their belt, the only way they manage to survive in some cases is because they have to insist on time away, time to reflect, time to rest, time to be with loved ones. My husband and I started a practice years ago where the minute the new year starts, we don't just do our kind of forecasted work calendars, but we also create our vacation calendar, which is something that was very difficult for me at first to mentalize, but it turns out to be pretty brilliant because you set the time apart, it motivates you, you make your reservations even, you cancel them if you have to, no big deal. But it's a wonderful way to structure the year that includes not just your work and your campaigns and your business trips, but also your fun time, which is wonderful. So the basic truth here is that there's only one moment, and it's now. Anything that's happened 5 minutes ago or 5 years ago or 5 weeks ago is past, and there's nothing we can do with that other than learn from it. The future, 5 minutes from now, hasn't happened yet, and we can only control what we can, but very little, very little. So at the end of the day, this is all we got. And if we're constantly letting go of the moment and constantly saying no to ourselves in the current moment, then, well, we can't be surprised when we become overwhelmed or burnt out, which has happened to me a lot. The question then becomes, what are the ways that help you let go? What are the ways that help you let go, enjoy the moment, and renew your calm? And the objective here is to actively care for your well-being. Actively care for your well-being to let go and relieve your tension and stress while renewing your personal power. Remember of the 5 S's we spoke from Stephanie's course in the first call, one of them is surrender. And surrender is not giving up. It's not giving in. It's really just learning to let go and focus on the things that you can influence and that are truly important to you. So how do you do this? What relaxation techniques can we share with you? Well, there's like hundreds, but here's a couple we thought might be of interest, right? again, insist and create time for relaxation. You know, this is something we're going to keep saying, create the time, right? Mindfulness tricks, the pause signal, right? Or you can create it by just writing it on a piece of paper. You write pause, you stick it over your desk or anywhere you think. Some people stick it in front of the phone. And it just serves as a reminder that every time you see it, you close your eyes and you take 3 natural breaths, and it has masterful effects. I put it in front of the toilet in the bathroom because you got to sit down anyway, right? The other one is the 5 senses. At any one moment when you're feeling overwhelmed or bored or frustrated, again, to fix yourself in the moment, you ask, what am I smelling? What am I seeing? What am I hearing? What am I touching? And it helps you just kind of bring you back to where you're at. Breathing tricks, I've mentioned in early sessions, you don't have to be some sort of masterful expert in breathing exercises, but breathing exercises, even for just 5 minutes a day, have had massive impact for physical, mental health, emotional health of people, as has been proven by various research. And so one of the first and most typical ones is you inhale for 4 breaths or 4 seconds, you hold it for 8, and then you exhale for as long as you can, which can be 7 or etc. When you do this, then you exhale full until you don't feel any more air in your lungs. And you feel your diaphragm is nicely compressed. And then you repeat. You repeat this for 5 occasions, 10 occasions, just slowly. And what it does is it triggers your parasympathetic system. So it triggers the opposite part of your nervous system that slows down the heart, and it just kicks into gear your normal relaxation, physiological relaxation. And it works really well. Meditation, again, there's a lot of methods out there. If you're advanced, you're enjoying all kinds of things, which is wonderful. But for everyone else, it's just 5 minutes. Start with 5 minutes. Just make sure you're consistent. The key is to simply find a moment when you are relaxed, or and if you're not relaxed, at least when you are in a place where you won't be interrupted, where you can sit comfortably. You focus on your breath while you close your eyes, and you just breathe naturally. You don't try to control it. There's no perfect way to do it. You can get apps for guided meditation or audios, which help as well. The only thing I suggest is getting ones that are really simple, because some are can seem a bit abstract in the contents or the topics they're trying to give you. And especially for beginners, it might feel a little bit hard to connect with. But the idea is just to do it regularly. And again, stay away from judging yourself. Let it be what it's going to be. Visualizations. People visualize going into places that make them feel safe. People visualize connecting with different parts of themselves. I have that a lot. We like our different archetypes that represent power parts of ourselves. You can visualize, sometimes I visualize nature places, and sometimes I visualize a warm egg, anything. I had a time when I was visualizing a lot of milk falling. I don't know, your mind will come up with stuff. You don't have to actively design it. If you just ask your mind, take me to someplace I feel safe, or what do I need right now? It can help you come up with those images, right? So don't worry about what it looks like, and don't worry about, what anybody else might think. And another one I love is chanting, sighing, and shouting. I'm particularly of the shouting kind, right? This idea that oftentimes when we have tension or when we need to relax, we're actually holding breath. And so you may have felt this, you may not, but what becomes really important is to let that tension out, right? So some people sigh like, right? That's why we sigh. But you do it more intentionally. Other people chant, you can chant in many different ways. And that's also very relaxing because it comes accompanied to some musical sounds. And then there's the one where you can just scream. And I don't mean scream at anything or anyone, but you can just, right? You can let it out. And that can feel really good sometimes, just to kind of get that crap out. Other things, Tara Brach, wonderful practitioner in mindfulness and expert, worldwide expert, has an acronym called RAIN, used for how to deal with kind of sensations and emotions that come up and make you feel uncomfortable. So the first is to recognize them. That's the R, right? Recognize what you're feeling, what you're sensing. And just pay a bit of attention to it. The second is allow it to be, right? That's the A, allow it to be, but don't enter it. Don't get absorbed by it. Just let it sit there, right, after you've acknowledged it. The I is inquiry. And in this case, we do sort of gently inquire within, where is this coming from, or what might this mean, but without, again, getting into sort of analysis paralysis. And the N is non-identification. It just means, as we've said before, imagine yourself as the sky and everything that's coming through you is just weather, right? Temporary weather. But non-identification is identification is key, because we're not trying to create more interpretations, more difficult belief systems, more conclusions or assumptions. That only adds more stress, right? This is happening. I'm feeling this. I'm thinking this. It's okay. It doesn't necessarily say anything about me. It's just part of my experience right now. Movement is another really wonderful thing. And in this case, I know that some of you are big gym buffs. I used to be one myself. You know, and we like to get that rush of doing very intensive exercise. The only thing is that if you're really stressed, sometimes it can just make it a little bit worse by, you know, overstimulating the heart. So in this case, doing your regular exercise at whatever rhythm you want is great. But the movement we're talking about here is more light, moderate exercise where you can really relax into the moment, not just relax after the endorphin kicks in afterwards, right? So here's some of them, right? You can, as you know, walking, hiking, dancing, stretching, yoga, house chores. Actually, a lot of folks have said that sweeping or mopping, especially if you do it slowly and you take your time, actually it has wonderful properties, right? It can relax you, and it's kind of a meditative quality. And there's other ones too. Nature related ones like gardening, pruning your plants, repotting your plants, you know, and again, anything being in nature can can do wonders. I'm a real big fan of hugging trees. Yes, I know what you might be thinking, but if you've never hugged a tree before, I highly recommend it. It's extremely relaxing. And the other thing is grounding. This I learned about a year and a half ago. Grounding is also a regular practice. You go barefoot at ground level on natural materials. So ideally it's sand or grass or rocks or dirt. But if you don't have access to that, it can also be, you know, natural wood floors, or we have here kind of terracotta tile floors. That's natural enough. But the idea is connecting sort of with just natural things with different parts of your body. Grounding can happen as you're walking, but you can also do it just by laying on the grass. Again, there's a reason we did this so much when we were children. Other things that help with relaxation. We talked about flow activities in the other calls, right? Anything, hobbies, games, things that really get you in the mood and get you to forget about time. And the point with all of this is to do it without expectation, right? To do it without pressure, without rush, without a time limit. And oftentimes you'll see that you don't necessarily need that much time doing it, but don't rush yourself. Music therapy is wonderful. You may love, you know, if you're a music buff, you have your favorite groups, but sometimes if you're particularly stressed, hearing particularly energetic music can be challenging. So music therapy is wonderful because it actually doesn't only use beautiful instrumentals and other sounds, but it also uses certain sound frequencies that have been connected with more relaxing properties and effects. So I highly recommend it. You can find it on any musical platform if you just search for it. Getting sun is critical, especially for those of us that are a little bit pale, but in general, it relaxes the muscles and it regenerates us immensely. You know that there are healthy supplements that can help you as well. Things like melatonin if you're struggling to sleep, tryptophan foods, everything from turkey, milk, almonds, bananas, you know, simple things that as long as you can eat them and you can find this out on your own, actually have amazing effects for relaxation and quite immediate in some cases. Herbs like valerian and others can also help tremendously. Of course, always speak with your doctor and your practitioner about what you can eat. But there's a lot of stuff out there that doesn't require having to take any sort of medication or synthetics. Rest, I'm always a big fan, as I keep saying, rest, you see, is the end point for all of these, because we don't get enough of it. I've been saying to folks that one of the things that I really have needed, especially during this period, is I sometimes go to sleep at 8 o'clock at night. I know it sounds nuts, but I also wake up most of the time at 6. So it's my rhythm. I was a night person when I was when I was a kid, but lately this is what I need, and it works wonderfully for me. So take your siestas, take your breaks. I, for example, am terrible at taking breaks during the day, but at some hour, the Duracell bunny shuts off, and then I'm useless until the next morning. So you'll know what flows for you. And just remember to shut off from screens, shut off also from people to a degree. And I don't mean this disconnect. Have your moments when you connect with folks, but a lot of people are saying, and research is coming out, that all of these online video calls are exhausting for people. And there's a great study, I believe, from NC that is coming out talking about this. It's exhausting being on these kinds of calls all the time. And even if you're doing it just for social reasons. So don't be afraid to communicate to others. We've had to do this as well. Listen, I'm going to be shut off for the weekend, or let's, talk at this moment, but then I'm going to put the phone away. It's okay. People get it. And a lot of folks are expressing the fact that they feel overwhelmed with all these obligations, both professional and personal. So just remember, this is your right. The more you take care of yourself, the better life goes in general. And the easier it'll be to get through both difficult moments as well as the daily activities, and just enjoy the moment more than perhaps has been the case before. That's all I got for you today. So now it's your turn. Let's go back to some of the questions, or you can ask or share anything you wish. Just to remind you, the questions from today were: how are you getting in your own way and preventing a more serene state of mind? What helps you function, flow, and accomplish in the easiest way possible? And what are the ways to help you let go, right? That can help you enjoy the moment and help you renew your calm. But again, you can ask anything.